Okay, today we'll discuss about the Azure Security Services. These Azure Security Services are not only for AVD, even for the Azure Kubernetes or VMs. For the most of the Azure services, we are going to use. So already we have like Azure AD or Entra ID for the identity and access management, user permissions, then resource permissions, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and conditional access, like based on the condition policies we have. For all these, we are going to use Azure AD. Then, like we have Azure, we have the Microsoft Defender. We have so Microsoft Defender also, for the Kubernetes, for the security, threat protection. We are going to use a Defender kind of service also. We are going to use, say, which is like it's going to provide the security kind of services, and even if any threats are there, that's kind of solutions it's going to provide. Okay, so we are going to use antivirus kind of protection, email defense, identity protection. All these we are going to get it through Microsoft Defender. We need to enable the Microsoft Defender, and this is also one of the good feature. Even for 365 also we can enable Microsoft Defender. Okay, and we can centrally dashboard those also, like security threats, all those also we can monitor from the Defender. Then Azure Firewall, like normally we have the NSGs or the firewall rules, but we have one more like network level we have. Azure Firewall is also one of the service we can use. So Azure Firewall also is one of the service we can use the uh, like uh, uh, on top of VNet also we can integrate with Azure Firewall we are going to add. Okay, so this provides more like policies driven and like a security service that protects our virtual network. When we are designing the VNet, at the VNet level we are going to use like Azure Firewall also. Additional to NSG, we are going to provide the firewall. Okay, say here both are for the network security itself, but like a more like a application level filtering, threat intelligence, more additional features are there with Azure Firewall, additional to NSG, additional to NSG. Okay, so there Azure Firewall provides at layer 3, layer 4, layer 7. It is going to provide security services for us. And it's going to use the application level filtering. Then we have based on the IP address or group based, location wise, all these we can do. Whereas NSG, like it's going to provide the stateful filtering for the inbound and outbound traffic. It is going to provide. So NSG works at L3 and L4 level, whereas firewall works at Azure Firewall will works at L3, L4, and L7 level. And for the virtual network wise, firewall we are going to configure. Okay, and by default, in intelligent like threat intelligent also is going to come by default for the Azure Firewall. Okay, so that's the reason. Like it's more like additional security we are going to provide for the production servers by using the Azure Firewall. By using the Azure Firewall. Then even on the VNet level, we need to enable DDoS protection also. But if we enable DDoS protection, lot of charging will come. But for the protection VNets, we need to enable DDoS protection. So now, like DDoS attacks, if we want to restrict, okay. So then at the VNet level, we need to configure DDoS protection also. We need to enable. Okay. So then at the layer 3, layer 4, it's going to provide the security. Even for the applications also at the layer 7 also it's going to provide, okay, so in the DDoS it provides the IP protection. It will provide always like traffic monitoring, alerting also is going to be get on our VNet. Like we can enable DDoS protection, we can enable, but a lot of charges are there. That is the reason we are not enable. But in the protection, we need to enable DDoS protection. We need to enable. Okay, so this is also one of the feature. Then what is the purpose of key vaults we are going to use is whenever we have the sensitive details, say like maybe passwords or certificates or maybe keys, SSH keys, these kind of or API tokens, project tokens if we have. So those all sensitive details we directly shouldn't use even when we are using the Terraform also. Like we are going to pass them from okay, so we are going to pass them from key vault. What is the advantage of using the key vault? What is the advantage of using the key vault? So by using the key vault, like we can store the sensitive details kind of thing. Okay, so by storing them, what is the advantage we are going to get is like we are passing the vault ID, then that sensitive details no one knows, and we can manage the rotation also. What is the meaning of rotation is if any changes have been came, automatically we no need to perform the changes. Okay, so we can enable the changes by using the key vault rotation itself. By key vault rotation, and in the back end by key vault setting, like here it's HSM means it's a hardware security models. So in the backend, they're going to maintain hardware security modules, and in that they're going to store the keys. And there are some algorithms or some security standards in the US, like FIPS, those all the standards, because whenever the data is transferred, those mandatory guidelines are there, like FIPS level. Like here, it's going to use either software backend kind of vaults or HSM also, like a hardware level also. We are going to hardware security modules also, we are going to store. Okay, and that standards follows FIPS algorithms for the security purpose. Like most of the US or guidelines we have, like FIPS is one of the like encryption kind of guidelines. Like when the passwords, all those travel over the network. Okay, say here the FIPS stands for Federal Information Processing Standards. So every product need to follow that guidelines. Like even our application level also, we need to follow those standards, Federal Information Processing Standards. Like our companies also will follow those FIPS standards. As per that, directly we shouldn't use the database passwords, all those over the network, it shouldn't travel. We need to use FIPS standard. For that, we are going to store the data in the vaults itself. Okay, so even while passing those details also from the vault itself, we are going to pass it. Okay, so that is also like we need to take care, like with the uh, sensitive details, maybe for the application or a database kind of thing. For those, we are going to use. Okay, so then we have Azure information protection is there. This is also one of the uh, cloud-based security solution. Like automatically, like it's going to be classify the data, whether it's confidential or internal kind of thing, and encrypt the sensitive files and the emails. If we integrate this with the Office 365 based on the policy management, like we can control like whatever the sensitive details are there. By default, it's going to classify, and even it's going to add the label also, like maybe internal kind of thing, confidential kind of thing. Okay, all those is going to provide that. Okay, so then based on the policies, we can keep. Okay, so what is the advantages? we can protect our customer data and intellectual property of the client data. We can protect that, and we can use the global compliance standards also, GDPR. Those all we are going to use. So once user opens the email or maybe any document which you got as an attachment in Office 365, it automatically, based on the content of that, it is going to apply a label. And based on the label which we have applied, it is going to be encrypted, and access also is going to be restricted. Okay, so this is one of the feature for the Office 365, one of the security service, Azure Information Protection. Then another one is there. Like previously, it's Sentinel, but now it's now they're calling as like Microsoft Sentinel, because they integrated now with the Microsoft 365 for all those. This is like a security information and event management kind of service. It's a cloud security information and event management, and security orchestration, automation, and response also is going to provide. Okay, so by default, what is it is going to do is it's going to provide uh, AI and ML kind of security protocols in order to detect like any threats. All these it's going to provide. Okay, so now what we can do is we have the analytics kind of rules, and based on that, it will identify any threats are there. Those all it's going to be display. Okay, so that where we need to any failed logins or like those all it will display. Okay, so this is also one of the good feature. Now it's integrated with Microsoft 365 also. Then Azure Security Center, now part of Defender itself, where we can get the centralized dashboard to get the reports, all those. Then Azure policies are very, very important. So Azure policies, we are going to enforce our organization level, whatever the policies we want to use. Those we can apply say suppose I'll explain some use case. Like I want to create a VM only in one region only I want to allow. Okay, so that means in that region only I want to allow my VM need to be created, or AVD, or definitely I need to ensure all the tag while creating the resources, we want to create the tags and mandatory tag rules, tagging kind of rules we need to apply. If I don't apply that tag, I want to restrict that resource creation. Okay, that means if I don't give the appropriate tags, I don't want to allow to create the resources, and I want to restrict the resource locations also, or I want to control the VM sizes. That means I don't want to allow the users to create VM sizes. Then naming conventions is also a company policies I want to enforce. Okay, so then we have premium plans and free plans. I don't want to allow to use premium kind of plans to the users. So I don't want to allow, like if I don't enable encryption, I don't want to allow the users to create the resources. Okay, and mandatory users need to apply, diagnostic settings need to be applied, or automatically diagnostic settings need to come to my resources. So these kind of settings I want to enforce globally, then I'm going to use Azure policy. These are going to use Azure policies. Even in the AVD also we have some settings. Those we can enforce by Azure policies. Okay. Then even when we are using the disk also, between the VM and the disk, by default the data need to be encrypted. That is also one of the global standard most of the companies are following. Whenever we are creating the VM, backend, it is going to use for the persistency Azure disk. Even in the AVD also, we are getting a lot of session hosts. For those also, like we need to use the encryptions we need to enable at the disk level. Then while creating that disk storage encryption, we need to use either Azure managed keys, or we can also, customer also can manage the keys we can provide. So that's mandatory. Lot of companies now are coming with this kind of like encryptions also. Mandatory, we need to enable the encryptions. Okay, then what is the purpose of Azure Bastion? So we have the private subnet missions, and by using the, if you want to connect to that private subnet mission, okay, over the RDP or SSH, like then we are going to use the Azure Bastion. Like this is Azure Bastion is one of the PaaS-based service. Technically, this resides in the public subnet, and to the private subnet instances, we can connect. Okay, so using the Bastion host, we can connect you to the private subnet missions we can access. Okay, so those are in the private subnets, but technically Bastion will host in a public IP, and it's going to create their own network also. Okay, so that means in our VNet, it's going to create a separate subnet. It is going to create. Once we deploy Bastion in our virtual network, a public IP is assigned to the Bastion host, okay, but not to our VMs. Then once we user connect through Bastion, we need to choose either RDP or SSH kind of things. Then over the encryption, like it's going to be connected. It's going to be connected. Okay, so that's we are going to use like we don't need to configure the inbound and outbound rules on that VM to the internet. Okay, so those all like we are going to provide. Okay, so then what is the advantage is it act as a like a uh, jump server in our environment, but it's a pass-based service. You no need to create a VM, all those. Okay, so that's automatically it's going to be created. Automatically it's going to create. And whenever we are creating a Bastion, it is going to create one subnet also is going to create. Okay, and /27 like is the CIDR range we required. /27 CIDR range it is going to use. Okay, so with the /27 that CIDR range it is going to use, and in that it's going to keep the Azure Bastion it is going to keep. Okay, so then Azure Bastion is a jump service kind of thing. It's going to be resides in the public subnet, and we are going to connect you to that like public subnet, sorry, private public subnet, and connect to the private subnet VMs. Private subnet VMs we are going to connect. Okay, then we have the uh, Azure private link we have. And using the Azure private link, what is going to happen is it's going to provide the private connectivity to Azure services. What is the concept is I want to like from the net subnet, I want to access any of the pass-based kind of services. At the VNet level, we are going to create a endpoint, and to that endpoint, I want to access my PaaS-based services like storage or maybe Kubernetes clusters or SQL database, key vaults, app services. Then we are going to use the private connectivity, and it's going to be providing a private endpoint, and using that, like our subnet is going to be connected to that. Okay, so that means whenever we want to use, like from the subnet to any of the PaaS-based services, we need to enable, like we no need to give the public access to those over the internet to access, even private link. So whenever we are using FS logic also, like it's like we can use the private link kind of connectivity we are going to enable. Okay, so then we have a WAF on top of your application gateway. We are going to enable the application firewall. What application firewall will do? We are going to integrate with the application gateway. That means at the layer 7, we are going to integrate. And what WAF will do is, if any of the hackers tries to use SQL injection or cross-site scripting, that kind of protection it is going to provide to the application level, cross-site request forgery, or like these all the hacking techniques, and even it provides the bot protection also. My application has been accessed by the bots. It's going to provide that bot protection also is going to provide, and even we can use HTTP floods. So what is the meaning of HTTP floods is some competitors are trying to flood us with the DNS kind of things or HTTP. We can keep a rate based filtering also. Okay, so with the rate limiting, we can restrict those kind of floods also. We can stop. So where we are going to integrate the WAF is with application gateway we are going to integrate, or with the Azure front door we are going to use. With Azure Front Door also, we are going to use the WAF. Okay. So then another security service is identity protection. Or like whenever we are going to like protect, depends upon the if the user sign in all those it's going to be intelligently recognize if there is any risky behavior or any suspicious kind of logins with Azure AD, it is going to integrate, and we can enforce those protection we can enable if any sign-in risk is there or user risk is there. We can set up like low, medium kind of risk, and using the conditional access we can integrate with the multi-factor authentication, those kind of things. With that we can generate the reports. All these also we can use. It is going to be detecting if any suspicious logins are there to the devices, or based on the user data like previous sessions, from which device is connected. Based on that, and it uses the intelligently some machine learning algorithms also to recognize that, and it's going to uh, display that information. Okay, and what we need to perform also is going to trigger that conditional access policies. Like that's maybe requiring MFA, or we can use user mandatory need to reset their passwords, or maybe some security like CAPTCHA kind of thing, or any security challenge user is going to get that. Okay, so this provides additional security to the user logins. Okay, so then, like now, some of the people are asking, have knowledge on. So some of them are like Microsoft PureView. These all some new services. Like what we can do with the PureView is at the data level we have the data security is going to provide. So we have different data sources like SQL or on-premises. Like it's going to classify the data, and tracking the data visualization kind of thing, data governance. All this is going to be provided by PureView. Okay, so this is also we can visualize those how the data flow is happening, and our governance also we can manage. Our governance also we can manage with that. Then even for the identity also we have Microsoft Defender. That's not only for like uh, uh, Azure. Now it's for other services also. Defender we have for storage also, for all the services. We have this services we are going to use. Okay, so now from the Azure AVD wise, Like what are the security standards and guidelines we need to follow? We'll discuss. So definitely we need to use Azure like Entra ID or Azure AD for the authentication we are going to set. Then like in that we need to apply for all the security users we need to enable the multi-factor authentications, and we need to use the conditional access policies also depends upon the like location or device compliances, risk levels, we can enforce like uh, those conditional access policies we can specify. With this what is going to happen is, if the user my condition not met when the user is trying to connect, okay, so then how it is going to work is, conditional access is going to define how the users are going to access our Azure ABD. Then in this, we need to check that whether the device compliance is matching our security standards, device encryption is there or not, and antivirus is there or not. So these all, like, we have the device compliances definitely I need to meet. If that is accepting, then only I'm accepting to connect to my ABD. Otherwise, location based also, I don't want to allow maybe some geographical locations or some untested locations. Okay, I won't allow it from the my trusted networks or VPN only. So that's we can enforce by using the location base or IP base also. Then risk base also. Like here, it's going to like a suspicious location or device based on the Azure AD identity. It is going to recognize. So we already discussed, right? Azure AD identity will provide, and if that is like uh, um, based on the risk level, if that is, if any of the, if the high risk is there, it is doesn't allow to log in also. So this kind of conditional policies, even for the MFA also we can enable. For the certain users or devices, we need to enforce MFA, and based on that itself, we want to allow this connection. Like in the Azure uh, we need to Azure Active Directory, under the security we need to choose the conditional access, and in that we need to apply the policies, and those users need to be attached. Okay, so this will discuss in the conditional access how we will provide. Then always, in the RBAC also, in the Azure when we are giving the permissions to the users, don't give more permissions. Directly we are giving contributor or owner role. Like always in the cloud and even in the infrastructure management, one of the principle is always give the least privileged access itself to the users, and based on the request give more permissions. Unnecessarily don't give more permissions to the users. Okay, so least privileged access itself we need to provide. Least privilege access we need to uh, provide. Okay, then on the VNet level also we need to provide uh, like uh, the security, all those also we need to configure NSGs need to be configured properly, and we can use Azure firewalls also on our network. We can enforce, and we need to restrict like inbound traffic unnecessary ports. Okay, then we need to use the like a threat intelligence filtering. We can enforce by using Azure firewall, and depends upon our requirement. We need to use the private endpoints and the private links also we need to use. Okay, so then whenever like we have the Azure AVD is going to use Azure files or Azure blob storage, definitely we need to enable a private link. As of now, we are giving the public access, but in the production environments, we should enable the private link whenever we are using those file shares, all those. Okay, and with the on-premises network, if you want to use in the real time, they're going to use the express route also. They're going to use our VPN. They're going to provide. So with this, what is the advantage is, like using a dedicated networking from our on-premises resources to, we are going to connect to on-premises to Azure. We are going to provide. And even we need to enable the DDoS protection also we need to enable. Okay, and continuously all these we need to monitor from Azure Monitor also we need to specify. Okay, so then we need to use again networking wise we need to design the private links. Then always use the which of the images are from the trusted launch itself, and make sure all the images should be security patches. All these also we need to secure from the host pools. And whenever we are using that storage, definitely we need to use the private endpoints, and encryption also need to be enabled. And we should prevent the public access also for the storage. Maybe in the dev and QA or while practicing we can use, but in the production it's mandatory we need to give the private endpoints. Okay. Then for all the session host also and networking storage account, we can enable Microsoft Defender also, and Sentinel also we need to enforce. So how to apply all these also, just very easy but little expensive, but for the production servers is definitely we need to specify. Okay, so then we need to configure session timeout. All these settings also we need to apply. So with this, what is the advantages? Like we can configure that in the host pool or in the conditional policies. We can set up the session host also, or we can use the like a group policy also we can set up. In that group policy, in the RDP settings, we have the session time limits. Like maybe for if the ideal time is 30 minutes or 60 minutes, I want to disconnect again, user need to apply. By using this, what is the advantage is the user is ideal, again you want to reconnect to that. Okay, like this in the group policies, we have in the remote desktop settings, session host settings, we have these limits. Those policies we need to apply. Okay, and even in the RDP also we can prevent the clipboard redirection, printer redirection, drive. Normally in the Citrix also we have these all, but from the Citrix policies we are enforcing. But now these all with the group policies or maybe from the Azure AD conditional policies we are going to set up. Like for the Azure security, one of the best practices is we need to use the session timeouts. Okay, then we need to use idle timeouts also we need to set up based on that, and like clipboard, these all depends upon the requirement we need to apply. Okay, so using the group policies or registry settings, we can apply these all. And mandatory we need to plan for the Azure ABD backup and recovery, and we can use the Azure site recovery also. If any disaster happens also, we need to replicate these all into other region, and from there we can provide the security also. So for Azure ABD wise, so these all we need to plan. Okay, then definitely we require good knowledge on the Azure policies also. As the Azure admin, we require the good knowledge on the Azure policies. Like what we can do with the Azure policies is we can define our organization level, or we can define at the resource level also we can create it's one of the governance kind of thing, and it's going to monitor those policies have been enforced or not as per our company standards or global standards or best practices what we can use. And if those policies have been not done, we can evaluate and we can restrict those also. Like in the Azure policies, we are going to define the policy definitions. In that, we are going to use either inbuilt policies from the Azure we are getting, or we can create our own custom policies also we can use. And if that policy can uh, audit or deny or modify that resource, and if that is not matching, then we are going to restrict that resource. Okay, so that's we need to use the policies. and in the policy definition, like we need to use the policy definitions and to either to the subscription level or resource group level, we are going to attach that. Okay, so most of them are like here, this is one example, only allowed locations I want to give. And if I use maybe East US, West US, what is this, like if I attach this to the resource group or to the subscription, the users can create the resources only in the East US or West US. Okay, so in that resource group or maybe in that subscription, I want to restrict that users not to like create the resources in all the regions. Okay, so like this here I can use like allowed location is my this is the inbuilt policy we have. Okay, so based on that, we can use or we can create our own policies also we can create. So either we can use inbuilt policies we can search or we can create our own Azure policies also by using the JSON format. And we have Azure some policy rules we have. From those rules, we are going to create the policies. Okay. So now here to whom we are assigning is like we are going to create to the either subscription level or resource group level. We are going to attach. Okay. So then, like even we can do remediation also. Like if any of the tag is missing, that policy itself will apply that instead of like deleting that resource, it will apply that any of that missing tag or those kind of things also we can apply. Okay, mostly with the tagging compliances, regional location, or to enforce appropriate security rules or the NSGs have been applied or not. Okay, encryption has been enabled or not. And sizing of the VMs, like maybe say suppose a high-end VM sizes have been created by the users, then billing is coming more. Then I want to prevent these kind of things. So for all these, we are going to use Azure policies we are going to use for this. Okay. So then, like even one more policy is only allow specific VM sizes. Okay. Otherwise, HTTPS is mandatory for my accessing the applications or only some source locations itself. And storage account times also uh, Omid is telling $100 also finish with the storage account. I don't want to support like maybe premium kind of storage for that user, then he can't create those. So these kind of restrictions at the organization level or subscription level or at the like resource group level we can enforce. Okay, and even we can create our own we can create our own custom policies also. In the custom policies, what we need to provide is we need to provide the JSON kind of standards we need to provide. Okay, say we will use the JSON kind of format, and in that JSON we are going to like specify like a uh, we need to use the JSON mission. In that policy definition we are going to use the condition like maybe if condition and field, and we have some like not in not like those kind of conditions we need to specify. Okay, so then like based on that effect we can enforce. Like we need to discuss some like a JSON kind of policies also how to use that we need to specify. In the if is that policy condition, and that then is the policy effect. We can allow, deny, prevent these kind of things also in the then we are going to keep. Okay, for some of the important use cases like tagging or VM sizes, for those, how the Azure policy looks, we'll discuss. Okay. So then, like here, what are the common use cases why we are using Azure policies? Like I want to restrict the VM regions, or I want to enforce the tags or secure storage, those kind of encryptions, all those I want to enforce, or I want to apply these NSG rules, definitely should be there in my resource, then only I want to provision, or some public IPs I want to restrict. So for all these kind of rules, at least how the custom JSON looks, we will discuss. Okay. So then, say here we have this. Say if that VM, what is this virtual machine? Uh, Environment tag is equal to dev, then I'm not allowing that instance. So only for production itself, I want to enforce. Okay, then like this here we can use these conditions. Okay, say if that condition is matching, then only we are going to use. Okay, so then even for the Azure AVD also, we will use these policies. I want to allow Azure AVD sessions in only our specific regions only we want to apply. Okay, for that we are going to use. Okay, so Azure AVD in that, say suppose here say here if it is not in East US or West US, I'm denying. What is that meaning? If it is in East US and West US, I'm allowing that. But if it is not in East US or West US, then I'm denying. Means even if I try to create a session host, and if this policy has been applied in my resource group or uh, like uh, in my subscription, then I don't create a session host servers in the another regions. Okay, so like this here we are going to use security policies to enforce this. Okay, and here we'll use the requirement tag also. If my ABD host tag is equals to or if the environment is not there, then I'm not going to allow. That means mandatory I need to have the environment tag. Otherwise, I'm not going to allow to create my ABD session host. Okay, so like this here, we want to enforce some kind of policies, and these conditional policies we are creating through the custom policies, and we'll apply and we'll test this. Okay, and in the Entra ID wise, we can use like a conditional access policies also we can keep those based on the IP location wise, that's at the user connection wise it is coming. But these policies we are enforcing mostly at the resource creation level. We are going to enforcing these policies. Okay. So these how to apply, we'll discuss in the tomorrow session.
So what are the prerequisites to apply these policies in that Azure
No.
AVD?
From the Azure policies, just we need to create and need to attach it. We need to understand if you want to use the inbuilt policies, then directly that definition, all that you don't need to write. But if you want to use any custom policy, then we need to understand these JSON policies. This JSON code is there, right?
Yes, sir.
If you use the inbuilt policies, then you directly can use it. But for our use cases, at least some 2 or 3 JSON scripts we need to understand.
Okay.
The prerequisite means from the Azure policies, we are going to create them.
Okay.
There we need to define, we need to go to Azure policies, need to create either a new policy we need to create, And from that, we are going to apply to that subscription or region level, where for resource group level, we're attaching it. Okay. Then while creating our resources, so based on our requirement, it is going to specify.
Okay, these scripts are already available in the Azure or
Inbuilt is available, custom we need to check that. As per
okay,
our requirements, just we need to modify something.
okay, okay, got it.
But for some use cases, I will explain that.
Okay,
Remaining, you try to go through that like documentation, or now we can use chat GPT also to, at least you should able to explain that what is your requirement, but don't trust 100% that we need to customize as per our requirements.
okay,
How to apply these all, we'll discuss in the tomorrow session.
okay.
Okay. So mostly even in a lot of times we are getting restrictions, right? Like this region is not supported, this zone is not supported. While creating the session host also, you will be getting that kind of restrictions. This
Yes, yes.
size is not supported. Those all on our subscription level already Azure has been applied those. So for the free tier kind of things, they have applied those policies. Maybe if you go for the pay as you go, they may not applied those. So according to that policy, we are not creating those. We are not able to create that resources. But these policies we are creating as per our business requirements. Those inbuilt Azure has already created based for our subscription. They have created those. But now based on our requirements, how our users need to create the resources, we are enforcing our own policies. Okay. So definitely we will get going forward. A lot of companies are setting these kind of policies in the organization level. So that's the reason they will ask us to create those policies. How to create all these policies and how to apply, we'll discuss in the tomorrow session.
Okay,
Okay. So meanwhile, try to follow the TEPES logic flows itself.
yeah, yeah.